Give me a toll-free call, 888-331-0269. And again, that's 888-331-0269. ncswapshop@yahoo.com is our email address. This has been another installment of the Carolina Swap Shop. Thank you so very much for tuning on in, and join me next time for more Bargain Steal Savings, a part of the Carolina Swap Shop. Have a great one. And again, I'll catch you next time for more Bargain Steal Savings.
Bigfoot Country, WBRM AM 1250, FM 103.9, W280FP Marion, WZGM AM 1350, FM 96.1, W241DD Black Mountain.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. A potential new target for the U.S. and Israel, Iran has a new supreme leader, replacing the With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. The U.S. and Israel have a potential new target in their war with Iran. The country now has a new supreme leader, replacing the previous one who was assassinated by Israel. New York City's police commissioner says 2 explosive devices thrown during dueling protests outside the mayor's official residence, Gracie Mansion, over the weekend, being investigated as an act inspired by ISIS. The Democrats' refusal to fund the Department of Homeland Security is starting to take a toll at some airports. There were huge airport delays in Houston and New Orleans over the weekend. The U.S. military has killed 6 suspected narco-terrorists in a strike on an alleged drug boat in the Eastern Pacific. The sell-off continues on Wall Street. The Dow down 784 points, while the NASDAQ is off 238 points. More details, srnnews.com.
I'm Mike Gallagher here, host of the Mike Gallagher Show. As we head into spring, there's some good news in the housing market. Rates have recently dropped. When rates drop, payments can drop. That can mean hundreds of dollars a month back in your pocket, money you can use to pay bills, reduce debt, or strengthen your financial position. That's why this is the time to talk to my friends at Fellowship Home Loans. They're helping homeowners refinance into lower rates and reduce their monthly mortgage payments. Fellowship also offers a fixed rate line of credit for home projects or consolidating a high interest debt with fast approval and a predictable rate. Remember, many people still qualify to skip their next 2 mortgage payments. That's 2 months of breathing room while you reposition financially. I've used Fellowship personally. I trust these guys. Before you make your next move, go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G, fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G, or call 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-MIKE. Fellowship Home Loans, mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, DBA Fellowship Home Loans, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819382.
The following program is a paid advertisement and does not necessarily represent the views, opinions, or endorsements of Signal Hill Media Partners, its affiliate stations, or its advertisers. Welcome to Taking Care of NC, the program dedicated to exploring the issues, opportunities, and challenges shaping the great state of North Carolina. Join your host, Representative Jeff McNeely, as he delves into meaningful discussions about politics, community initiatives, and the people working to make a difference. Whether it's tackling local concerns, highlighting state achievements, or addressing pressing legislative matters, this show is your go-to source for understanding how North Carolina is growing and thriving. Stay tuned as we kick off another insightful episode of Taking Care of NC.
Good morning, North Carolina. Hope everybody's doing well out there this morning. It's kind of a dreary day. Maybe this is going to blow off. They say it's going to get a little warmer, so we're going to see. North Carolina, we used to have a spring. Now we just go straight kind of to summer. So it is what it is, but maybe you can get some work done later today or tomorrow if you need to outside. Hey, I got a great show today. I got retired 2-star General Mel Speece with me, and we're going to talk about Epic Fury and what's going on. We're going to talk about how it got to this point, what we're doing now, and where we're going to go. And Mel, General, you've been involved in a bunch. Glad to have you on the show.
Thanks.
And tell us a little, who is two-star General Retired Mel Speece. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how'd you end up here?
Okay, Jeff. Well, yeah, the ladder was random. I got commissioned in 1976 when I graduated from the University of Illinois, infantry officer by occupational specialty, kind of a standard career pattern. As I got more senior, I spent a lot of time in the training and education business. So I spent time running schools and then eventually the entire enterprise. I finished up in 2013. I spent a couple of years in California at the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force as the war was winding down for us in Afghanistan when we were bringing the majority of the forces home. And we stayed there for a couple of years. And in fact, it was another Marine general who retired in Mooresville. His wife posted something on Facebook about one of the top 10 places in America to live.
There you go.
We were leaving California, had nowhere to go. My wife said, let's go take a look at one of the top 10 places in America to live.
Fell for it.
We fell for it. As soon as we got here, we knew this was it. And at that point, it was a matter of finding the house. So here we are. We got here in 2017, and it's worked out better than we thought. Couldn't be happier.
Well, I've got to know you through the Republican Party, and I find you to be a leader and upstanding person.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
The people like you are what I want leading my troops. Is what I want. So I appreciate that. Now, you've been involved in some way or another through training or whatever, boots on the ground, and about every operation, war, whatever we want to call it. So now we're to Epic Fury. And me and you were talking earlier before we went on the show. This actually didn't start a week or so ago. This started in 1979.
That's right.
And it's been going. And so give us your insight of why it's took this long for us to finally say we've got enough of them.
Well, without question, this president and this administration views national security and the use of force a little bit differently than all of their predecessors. So we had spent decades tolerating and putting up with what the Iranians had been doing, and I think it really reached its peak in the war in Iraq as they were supporting the insurgencies killing Americans, and frankly, we felt handicapped, right? We were stretched pretty thin at that point. The war was not going well in Afghanistan. Obviously, we were up to our ears in a couple of insurgencies inside of Iraq, and I think the administration felt constrained. They didn't believe they could get to the problem at its source, and it just gave, I think, the Iranians greater impetus to grow. They're the big winners out of the 20 years of war that we had in the Middle East. And I think as it finally got to Trump's desk, this second iteration, he saw this in the first administration, and I think he was processing it. You know, he had been aware of it, but he never had to deal with it.
I think it took him a couple of years to figure out that he won and how we got to go about this. Now he gets it. He gets it.
I think so. And he's put together a very good team. I think the leadership inside of the Pentagon, General Kane, Admiral Cooper down to Central Command, have got the right perspective on what needs to be done and how we need to approach it. And I think, obviously, watching the Israelis during the fighting that they've undergone,
Gaza,
and then doing a lot of close observations, talking and planning with them for their fight back in June, I think this has all been building. And I think what the president realized that there was a window of opportunity. I don't know how short it was, but there was a window of opportunity. It was going to be closing where the math was not going to work out in our favor, that they were going to get back to missile production that was going to be a problem. And I think he took advantage of the opportunity, got the forces in place, and now we're working our way through, I think, dismantling and destroying their ability to be a problem in the region.
Well, was it Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name. We finally got him to the table. What was it, in Geneva? I think it was. Finally got him. It wouldn't come, which told me that's just stall. And of course, we tried to do this back before this, and then we went over and made 3 new golf holes in their mountain where they're doing all this work.
Jeff, that's exactly right. And what the bad guys had been doing, the Palestinian Authority before them in 2016 during the first administration, and these guys, is they thought that this administration was going to behave like all of their predecessors, and they didn't do a good job of reading the president and how he thinks, how he does business, and they got it all wrong. Their negotiations were the same as before. They could stall, they could behave however they want. None of our deadlines mattered. Whatever we presented as a threat was irrelevant to them. And in this particular case, Trump did business differently. And now he's not giving them the option to talk right now, I don't think.
Well, Kushner said that the first thing they told them when they sat down at the table, before they even hardly said hello or anything, was, we have enough uranium that we can enrich, and in about 3 weeks, we can make 10 nuclear warheads. If we only made 1, we could probably do it in 3 or 4 days. And so when somebody tells me that, even if they're bluffing me, I'm going to take it at face word, because I know eventually they're going to do something, whether they can right then or there. That gave me my door to go.
Jeff, I think that's exactly the point. I'm not sure how close they were being able to do it. I think the strikes we had in June were really devastating to them. I don't know about, obliterating, but it's really, really devastating. I don't think they really had the ability to do it quickly or easily, but the fact that they were continuing on that track
and talking smack,
that's right, sent the message that if not in 3 weeks, they were going to work towards it in 3 years. And the president realized that if he didn't act, we would be dealing with this for another 45 years.
Oh, yeah. And in 1979, they say students, I don't know who all the mob was, basically overran our embassy. And I think, what was it? They took like 70-some people hostage. I can't remember. I remember when I was a kid, born in 64. So I guess maybe I was 13 years old, 14 years old, something like that, or whatever. I just remember going, why don't we go in there? Why don't we go in there? We tried to do that night operation, which we'd never really done. And I remember they said they took the air filters out so the things would be quieter, and sucked up all the dust and shut the helicopters down. And it was a horrible mission. And then we never tried again. And basically, we've been taking whatever they hand us since then.
That's right.
And how long are you going to do that? How long are you? I'm not going to do that long. I think we waited way too long to fix this problem.
Yeah, and we have dealt with them in a variety of different ways. If you recall, towards the end of the Iran-Iraq war, Reagan got the tanker war when we were making sure that the ships, in particular the oil ships coming out of Kuwait, were secured and protected, because the Iranians were attacking them, trying to affect the flow of oil. So that was a start. They were behind the terrorists that attacked the embassy in Beirut, and of course the Marines in Beirut. So this has been a problem.
And Hamas, they backed Hamas all through the Gaza.
Yep. Yeah, so they weren't going to go away unless we made them go away. Yeah. And that's the nature of the people we're dealing with. We have this propensity, I believe, when we deal with other people, to do this mirror imaging. Their value set is the same as our value set. The things that are important to them are the things that are important to us. And clearly that's not the case with these guys, so they have to be dealt with differently. And Trump has taken that approach, gave them an opportunity to talk, and when they chose not to, he said, okay, we're going to do it a different way, and here we are.
Well, I hate that we're putting our service people, men and women, in harm's way, but they're not safe. Before 2 weeks ago, they weren't safe then. We had them in harm's way then.
That's right.
It's just there hadn't been really a missile shot at them yet.
That's correct.
But
that's a valid way of looking at it.
Any chance they got to take out American military personnel, they would have done it in a heartbeat, and they have fired on us many times from Yemen, the rebels they support there, wherever they can. They've shot at us, the USS Cole. They're always in this game. They're either supplying the money, the people, the weapons, the technology, whatever. And then we've really kind of been fighting them in Ukraine with all the drones supplied to the Russians from Iran.
That's
so
right.
we've already been fighting them. Our money's been fighting their weapons in Ukraine for a while now.
And that's part of the case Trump has made, is that this war just didn't start. It has been ongoing. And we have attributed something like 650 deaths in Iraq to the bombs, the IEDs, the components that came from Iran into the terrorist hands in Iraq. So this fight has been ongoing, and now we're finally doing it on our terms.
Well, let me ask you this, General. All right, so, to me, the Iran, they shot missiles at us, and they shot missiles at Israel. All right, but they shot missiles at everybody over there
right now.
So what's their end game here? I mean, nobody's going to feel sorry for them, and nobody's going to come to their rescue because they've done PO'd all of their neighbors that might have come to go against the U.S., but I doubt it because most of them are friendly to us, and I guess that's why they did it, because they're friendly to us.
I think I don't want to use the word rational, because our rational isn't the same as theirs. So I don't want to say what they're doing is irrational. But in their thinking, they're lashing out everywhere. They're trying to be as painful as they can be, I believe, to try to get our Arab partners to put pressure on the president to turn the war off and end the war. And I think that's part of what we're going to see as the Straits of Hormuz stay shut and the oil gets backed up, and, of course, the costs are going up. So I think there is going to be some pressure to try to end this, to see some kind of accommodation. So I think the clock's ticking for us as we move, I think, very quickly to break as much as we can inside of the country, inside of the regime, so that at whatever point the president turns it off, we have taken them off the table for a generation or two to interfere in the world in any significant way.
I hate to use the word got tickled, but I thought it was kind of ironic that they basically publicized they were going to have a meeting of all the clerics to pick a new supreme leader and pretty much broadcast it, thinking that the audacity, there's no way that we will attack them. Allah won't let that happen. And we blew all them up too.
Well, you would have thought after getting hominy at that meeting on Saturday, I guess, morning, that they would have learned a lesson. In a lot of ways, they're slow learners.
I think, and there may be some Muslims out there listening, and I'm sorry, I don't believe your religion. I know you don't believe mine. We're going to see, I guess, how this works out as far as supreme beings. But I feel like they just think that they're above all. That they're above all, and that Allah's there with them. And I'm not sure that's working out for them like they thought.
Well, there's no question that they are truly ideologically driven. And there's a couple components to that. There is this idea of the return of Islam and the growth of Islam, certainly political Islam as well. There's also some practical dimensions. They're an authoritarian, totalitarian state, and they've worked that into the government. And, yeah, we're going to see if their approach works out. Right now, it doesn't appear to be. But again, Jeff, your point earlier, it's been allowed to work out since 1979 because we've, in certain ways, given them permission by tolerating them. And we've come to the end of the road with that. Now, it has taken a while. the Gulf partners needs to get on board.
Well, this got them, I think, by them getting bombed.
Yeah. Well, they're all authoritarians over there.
Yeah.
And they tend to be careful about popping off other authoritarians. They don't like setting precedents. So not until they come under real pressure where they really believe the threat is oriented at them, they really kind of come forward. And even right now, they've come forward standing behind us.
Well, I've never really thought about the government structure, but they've got a prime minister in Iran. They got a president in Iran. And then they have the supreme ruler in Iran. So I'm trying to figure out what those first two guys do. If you got a supreme ruler,
not much of anything.
I think they're able. They find somebody that can speak English fairly well, so they can go on and talk on TV, and get that broadcast. And maybe that's their propaganda. I don't know. They have a lot of positions. I don't think have a lot of power.
That's right. All of that was wrapped up in the Ayatollah and the small group of experts that surround him. And that looks a lot like the old Soviet Communist Party with the Central Committee around the premier. We see that in China. So it's...
Looks good to have a crowd, but one person's calling the shots.
That's right. And, you can put a bunch of different labels on it from one authoritarian state to another, but the model is all the same. And that's how they do business. And we'll see what happens going forward. Named the new leader,
the son, I think, got.
Yeah,
I think he was left. I think he missed the first meeting.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how well that works out. I'm not sold that that's how it's going to be at the end of the fighting.
Well, and nobody, we have reports from before this of the protests going on before we started the bomb. And, Iran says, well, we killed about 300. And then we have other reports they've killed more like 30,000 of their own people. Yeah, we don't know. And they don't care. They'll kill whatever they need to kill. So where do you think the people of Iran are at in this? Are they going to be able at some point in time to overthrow what's there now that we've weakened that stranglehold and form a government of some kind or another that looks decent?
I don't
word acceptable, maybe.
Yeah, I think, Jeff, that's going to be hard. The power structure, the internal power structure, sits with the Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard Corps. They've got the weapons, and they really passed a threshold a month ago when they killed as many people as they did. That's something they had not done before. They had put down some of the demonstrations. They've killed, in some cases, a couple thousand, but never at the numbers that they did before. So I just don't know what can actually happen. There is no opposition that can come forward and take over. The best that could happen is a complete collapse of the governing process, and then there's chaos. I don't, read some stories that there is an opposition movement somewhere. It's going to have to come from somewhere. They're going to have to be able to take some aspect of authority for a real regime change to take place. Changing a leader doesn't change the regime.
That's right.
So I don't know there's two things that can happen. The first is new guys can take over. They're tired of the pain, and they move to accommodate, and we get compliance like we did in Venezuela. We only had to take Maduro and his wife, and those guys figured it out pretty quick.
Well, I think a lot of them were sick of him too. So.
Well, that's correct.
I thought it was ironic there where I believe his own troops wouldn't have put up a fight, so they had Cuban troops in there as a security detail to protect him.
That's right. It really shows the problems that existed there, and I think we understood that enough that we could go in very quickly, take him and his wife, and the whole dynamic changed. This this might be a little bit tougher. Again, if we can get a change of leadership where they're willing to comply with our wishes, that'll be fine. If not, what we have to do is whoever takes over, there's nothing they can do for a generation or two. So that's why the level of destruction is going the way it is, and why we're hitting hundreds of targets every day, and we're just working our way through a very complex and long target list.
Well, all right. Now, we went in back, what was that, in June?
Mm-hmm.
Was it June? And so they built their supposedly nuclear labs in a mountain so they could generate power to supply their people. Now, why would you have to build this inside a mountain if all you were doing was to create the nuclear reactors to power considering they've got oil they could burn for centuries to do the same thing or whatever. So I guess my question is, I'm afraid we're for long gonna send troops in, and that's when things get tough.
I'm not convinced of that.
Really? Okay, good. I want to hear that.
Yeah, I don't think we need to. If we want to impose a new government, then yes, we're going to have to do it like Iraq. If we're willing to, like what's happened in Venezuela, allow them to figure out their own way forward, as long as they don't bother us, then we don't need to send anybody in. That's the difference with this administration. I think they understand what the minimum level of requirement to get what our national security needs are. And again, that is to make sure we've destroyed all of the capability they have to be a problem in the region and to be a problem for us. If we can get past that, great. If not, no big deal. Democracy would be ideal, but I think we've got outcomes that are going to be workable for our needs short of democracy. Again, Venezuela is a good example of that. If they become democratic, great, but we don't need them to be democratic to meet the needs that we have now. So I'm confident. I shouldn't say that. I'm comfortable, and I hope we don't talk ourselves into this idea that we have to get into Iraq and impose a new form of government on us, because then
that's not what we're good at.
We're not good at that.
Yeah, we're not good at policing. We're good at destruction.
That's right. And they've got 90 million people, and even though the vast majority, things change when you show up on the ground.
I know.
And especially if the changes don't happen fast enough, everybody else becomes a target for the dissatisfaction, and we saw that in Iraq.
Well, now let me ask you this. How long do you think it is before we try to make sure, let's say we take the oil fields. That's the jewel in the crown right here, because it works both ways. Actually works three ways. One, it supplies oil to wherever we want it to go, whether it be us or our allies. Two, it cuts off the money to continue to fund any kind of weaponry that they may buy. But three, it crushes China.
Yeah, well, China's going to get oil on the open market. What this will do is take off the discounts that they've been able to purchase because they're buying it illegally, if you will. So it's going to cost them a little more money. I don't know, again, if we try to take the oil fields, we put ourselves on the ground. I think what we can do, and this is the conversation I suspect we might be having with whoever, I believe we've got some people that we're talking to. If we destroy their oil fields, we destroy their ability to make money, and their economy is in terrible shape.
It's been bad.
It has been bad. If we do that, the country collapses, the economy collapses, and I think at that point they do get chaos. So I think that's the one bit of leverage in whatever dialogue we may be having. If that goes away, I think they're in trouble. I don't know if you're aware of this, but they've got a water problem in Tehran.
Well, I know, and there's a water problem in the whole region. So when do they start attacking the water plants that are so critical? They're more critical than the oil. I can go a day or two without driving.
That's right. So their problems are massive. And again, as it is, I think whenever the president makes the decision to be done, it's going to be that their problems are so big and they're out there for so long that they're not going to worry about trying to get Hezbollah back up on. They're not going to be building any ships. They're only going to be worried about feeding their people and surviving day to day. And if the oil fields go away, there's nothing but chaos. I don't think they can hold on at that particular point, because then the conditions are so bad that having guns isn't going to make that much of a difference. And even the guys with guns are going to be in trouble.
Well, we're about to get to the halfway point, and you can stay as long as you want today, and we'll talk about all kinds of stuff and take calls second half, and I got other stuff we can put in there. But they want a nuclear bomb so bad. That mountain, what do we give them one? Well, a small one, a dirty bomb, whatever. I mean, to me, it looks like we take that mountain and make it a lake some way or another.
Jeff, I think we have.
Or do we start something that you can't go back from?
I think they're already there. I think the shots in June the most amazing shots ever in history, with those huge bombs hitting ventilation shafts. And then the series of them penetrating deeper and deeper, the structural damage inside of those places has to be severe.
I'd love to know. Wouldn't you love to know?
Well, I would. The thing that surprises me is that they never built the bomb. They should have kept their mouths shut a decade ago, build it, and if they had it, the math would be different, just like in North Korea.
That was a mistake. We should have never let those people have one.
Well, the Chinese are the ones that really were the enablers to that. But so I think their dream of a nuclear weapon is a dream for 2 generations from now. I think the damage is going to be that significant. And if it's not that way, they have to give everything up. They can't eat. They can't do anything pursuing that, because that's going to be the only thing they can do. I think that's how extensive the bombing campaign has been across the nation.
Well, like I said, I think we need to make that mountain into a lake. It just need to keep pounding until there ain't nothing left, till we can see the hole.
Well, yeah, if we could go in and see it. But I think the Israelis
they're so smart. They are.
Without question. So I think between them and us, we understand how far along their program was, where the critical nodes were, what was happening in those nodes, and then the nature of the damage that needed to be done in order to break the system of putting a bomb together. And I'm very confident that has been achieved. Certainly the second series of attacks that we've been going through now in the last 10, 11 days, we've been working over the remnants of what they had in the program. And I think I'd love to see the intelligence, but I think in that regard, we're getting on to other things because we're confident that we've done what needs to be done with that.
Well, the oil is you hate to say that's the reason, but that's the crown jewel, and whoever controls it, or if there is none, whichever way you want to, either you take it or you make sure nobody else can take it, will change the whole dynamic of the people they've been working with.
That's correct.
And all the people they've been working with hate us just as much as they did. And so I think at some point in time, we definitely either take the oil fields out or we try to nationalize them. I don't know. I hate to think we lose American lives over oil, but we've done it for a long time.
Yeah, we have.
We've done it for a long time.
Yep. Well, and again, when you take a look at Venezuela, we've got our fingers now in their oil, and we did it in a very economical manner and harder. bigger problem in Iran, but I think we can get there as well. And we have lost 6 soldiers already.
I hate that.
I think the costs are going to be minimal.
Well, I know it's tough to lose any of them. I appreciate the service and the life they gave for our country. I appreciate all that have fought, and then those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. There's no way to repay them.
That's right.
For what they've done for our country. Well, we're going to take a hard break right now and come back. I'm going to see if the general wants to hang out with us. We'll take some calls, and so just stay with us. We got a lot to talk about.
Kids across America are going to school hungry. Millions of kids every day. But one simple thing can help change all of this for a hungry child in America. Good, healthy food and the energy it brings. With help from caring people across America, No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures. To learn more about ending child hunger in America, go to helpnokidhungry.org today.
We all want more for North Carolina. More boundless views, more adventures in the outdoors, and more clean roads to get there. But to get more, we have to do less. Less littering, that is. Make it your nature to trash your trash and keep NC clean. And we'll all have more reasons to love North Carolina. Litter less, get more. For more on the 7 outdoor NC Leave No Trace principles, visit OutdoorNC.com. Sponsored by the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters and Visit North Carolina, a part of the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina in cooperation with this station.
We all play a role in keeping our community safe.
Every day, we move in and out of each other's busy lives.
It's easy to take for granted all the little moments that make up our everyday.
Some are good, others not so much.
But that's life.
It's when something doesn't seem quite right that it's time to pay attention.
Because only you know what's not supposed to be in your everyday.
So protect your everyday.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
Bravo, Brenda. You've always been a saver. Price matching your price matches. The self-proclaimed queen of extreme couponing. But this time, you truly outdone yourself. By saving for this electric vehicle, you're locking in up to $1,000 a year in fuel and maintenance savings, which will leave you saying, cha-ching, every time you unplug. Good for your wallet, great for the planet. That's the power of EV. Sponsored by the NC Clean Energy Technology Center and the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters in cooperation with the station.
All right, we're back here with the second half of the show. If anybody would like to call in and talk to us, I got the general still with me here, General Mel Speece, 704-873-9929. We can talk about Epic Fury. We can talk about whatever you want. So give us a call. Got a lot going on. We talked a little bit right there at the end. You know, if a nuclear bomb is detonated over there by us to take that mountain out and to make sure that nobody goes and plays there for the next 4 or 5 decades or whatever. But that sets up a precedence. It releases a chain. Next thing you know, Russia's got something going on in Ukraine, and then you can't grow grain for 50 years there. Of course, they've already had Chernobyl. They know what it's like. So
yeah, I think maybe, Jeff, even more than that, the other wild card is China. They are building up their nuclear force.
Yeah, they go to Taiwan.
What we don't want to do is change that set of rules on the use of nuclear weapons with the Chinese. We want to be very cautious of people that aren't predictable. The one thing about the Cold War is we had a real understanding. The only people with nuclear weapons were the Soviets. We had an understanding with them. We understood what the escalation ladder was. Both sides understood mutual assured destruction. But the proliferation of nuclear weapons now, India, Pakistan,
North
Korea. So things could be unleashed that could spin out of control, and we don't want to be the precedent for that.
That's right. We don't. Like I said, we don't want to start it, but we don't want to wait more than a second later.
Well, that's right.
So it's tricky. But I mean, you know, we all know Kim Jong. What is it? I can't remember his last 3 different names. Whatever it is, crazy man in North Korea. I think that's
Rocket Man.
Rocket Man. Yeah. I mean, he's itching. he's itching to do something, but we definitely know that the people in Iran are crazy enough. Once they get it, they'll use it. I don't think Israel, will be repeatedly targeted with. They'll burn it all on one place in Israel, trying to wipe them off the map.
And from that perspective, that was the concern in Iraq as well. When we discovered the extent of the Iraqi nuclear weapon program after the first Gulf War, we were surprised at how far along they had actually gotten. And part of that is we build a weapon not to use, right? It's a deterrent. So that means it's got to be safe. It's got to be stable. It's got to sit on the shelf and be reliable in the event we have to use it. So you build it a certain way. They were building it to use it.
Yeah.
So we were looking at a pathway that was, in fact, different than the one they actually took. And that is the concern of what we perceive to be irrational and unstable states, countries having nuclear weapons. That is the reason why it's imperative that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon, because the people running it are going to use it.
Yeah, like I said, certifiable crazy in my opinion. Their deal is, okay, we're all gone, but we're going to make sure y'all all gone too, and they don't care. And so
I think so.
Yeah. So anyway, I always say the funny thing is, to me, if you're a country without a nuclear weapon, if things go wrong, you're probably going to be the one to survive. But if you do have a nuclear weapon, now there's a target on you. So we're going to make sure anybody left, just like Russia is too, you're going to take out anybody that's a threat. Once that chain starts, and folks, this is something I pray never happens, but once that chain starts of reaction, everybody's got one on the board, and you're going to hit them. If you don't got it, they may leave you alone. I can see Africa being one of the great places to go live after that, because hopefully nobody down there's got one.
That's right. Maybe all the radiation blows in a different direction.
Yeah. Who knows? So, and we talked a little bit right there over time. We talked about Greenland, and maybe we actually want it. Maybe we're just talking to keep things busy while other things are going on. Because Trump, I'll give him that, is a master of having everybody speculate and go crazy and do whatever while he goes about his business in other places.
If you take a look at when he first came into office, that was a big deal. Got a lot of people spun up. Of course, the vice president went over on the trip, and then sort of tamped down. We can do really anything we want. We've got that relationship with Denmark. But he brought it up again right before going to Davos.
Yeah.
And, of course, everybody in the world was spun up. And in a matter of a day or two, he walked out with the Secretary General of NATO, Rutte, and said, we got this framework for a deal. No discussion of what the elements were, but we just had this framework. Nobody was asking about Iran, and while all that was going on, we were moving ships and airplanes into the region. So as all the attention was on Greenland, there was no attention on Iran, and it wasn't really until the last 10 days, 2 weeks, as we were getting the second carrier battle group into the region that things started to ratchet up and the world's attention was brought to it. But it also, I think, put the president in a position where the negotiations at that point were then serious. And he was giving Iran the opportunity to come forward in real negotiations to get to a real outcome. And they were behaving like they had done before. They just weren't dealing with the same guy as they had been dealing with.
You would have thought, though, when they saw these two aircraft carrier groups, like battle groups, whatever you want to call them, escort, you would have thought that maybe he's not just burning diesel fuel. Maybe he's not bluffing this time. But evidently, I think the politically correct way is to fool around and find out.
Well, That's right. And again, if you looked at where he has been in the use of force, first administration cleaning out ISIS from Western Iraq and Syria, and then the killing of Soleimani towards the end of his administration, and then participating in June. And really, more than that,
June, if that wasn't a wake up, what is? I don't know.
Giving the Israelis the green light, was significant.
That we'll back them. Yeah,
that's
go
right.
ahead. Yeah,
and then again, coming out of the Maduro apprehension, they obviously miscalculated and completely misread him. But Jeff, that's what happens when you become convinced in a narrative, especially one that has been built up over time, the ability to process new information. The Israelis on October 6th actually believed that they could work with Hamas. They actually thought that Hamas could behave like a government entity, and they were surprised on October 7th.
Yeah, man, that's rare. Usually the Israelis never get surprised. They were caught.
And there was information available. Hamas was sending all the signals that things had changed, but they had so convinced themselves of their narrative that they couldn't move off of it. I think the Iranians were in the same do loop. They had so convinced themselves that they rejected any information that came in different.
Well, I think there's another politically correct way to say it. And basically we always say, well, go ahead and test your assumption as soon as possible and see how that works out for you.
That's right.
And that didn't work out. That didn't work out for them. Their assumption didn't quite go. So, this has been, we'll say the word brewing, but whatever you want to say it, for thousands of years. It's been that eternal conflict in that region. And it's, there's probably 3, 4, 5, who knows, different sects or groups or tribes or what clans, I don't know what you want to call them, that are in Iran, pretty much like we saw all these different divisions in Iraq, and none of them could really govern the whole thing. They could govern their area, but you almost get back down to the warlord type thing. So does Iran end up being split up maybe in multiple regions? And who knows? I mean, that's what we got to in Afghanistan also.
Well, I think there's a lot of concern about that. And so I think back on Iraq, I really am surprised that we thought we could remove that central authoritarian government and the country wouldn't fracture along religious lines, because we saw it happen in Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
As soon as that central authoritarian government of Tito went away, the place fractured and we saw ethnic cleansing and just brutal fighting there. I'm just stunned that we didn't think that was going to happen inside of Iraq, especially given the brutality of the minority government, the Sunnis, on top of the Shia. I think there are concerns that the ethnic divisions inside of Iran could be serious. And ultimately, whatever goals we have in this, in dealing with the current regime or the governmental structure who happens to be in charge, we want everything that happens to stay contained inside of their borders. If this becomes like a Syria where everything dissolves, the impact of that is so much bigger. It could be tremendously destabilizing even beyond the region. So we do not want to see a Syria-like situation occur at whatever point the war is over. And all the Arab nations are worried about the same thing, which is why I think we need to be very cautious about this idea of regime change.
Yeah.
Unless you can control it, You don't know what's going to happen. Likely to spin out of control if it gets to chaos. And I don't think we have the ability to control it.
Well, now, you said something way back at the first of the show about our leadership in the Pentagon. Now, you know, and I think many agree, Pete Hegseth is fine. He's a mouthpiece. That's fine. You need somebody to go on, pretty much like the prime minister and president of Iran. You need somebody to go on TV. He's entertaining. I think he's staying out of the way, which is a good thing. But now, in Trump's first administration, I always remember General Milley. And so, how do you feel about, I know you said you like them or you think they're better, but how do you truly feel about the leadership we have in the Pentagon now versus his first administration? Because I think they'd have shot him in the back if they got a chance, that first administration.
Yeah. Well, in the first administration, he inherited Joe Dunford, who is just spectacular. He was a great chairman. Let's remember, Milley was Trump's choice.
Yeah.
So he owns that one. And
you think he just listened to the wrong voices?
I think there are a couple things, yeah. General Kane, Dan Kane is his choice too. And I don't know that he could have made a better one.
Okay.
I think the leadership on the uniform side in the Pentagon is superb.
I've heard morale is out the roof. I mean, it's totally changed.
So here's one of the takeaways.
People are re-enlisting. They're re-enlisting. They're not leaving.
You know, Jeff, it's not ever been the corporal or the captain.
Yeah.
They're fine. We didn't develop the ability to do Midnight Hammer or the Operation Venezuela overnight. That didn't occur when Trump rolled in. Allowing them to perform that way is what changed.
Yeah.
It was the most senior leadership. The problems we had in Afghanistan weren't the soldiers and the Marines on the ground. The leaders set the conditions.
Yeah, you've got to fight with one arm behind your back. You ain't going to win that.
So I think, and we're seeing the results. We've got incredibly competent people. They've put together a great plan. And, the president's been all over the place with what our goals and objectives are. I don't think the military guys are all over the place. They know what they're doing. And they're working their way through this methodically, and they're doing it very well. The hard results that we're seeing on the ground are extremely good.
Well, I just, like I said, I hate to see us get into a ground war. I'm thinking at some point in some time we're going to send somebody in to take somebody more out, maybe. But maybe we're not going to try to. Well, I just know this: we're built for speed. We're built for annihilation, but we've never been built for policing, and that's where we've always struggled. Because we're not going to do the tough things that have to be done when policing.
Well, let's go back. The war in Iraq in 2003 has really distorted the post-World War II security situation around the world. After World War II, prior to March of 2003, wherever an American soldier was standing at the end of a conflict, there was peace and stability, right? In Berlin and Tokyo, it was really substantial in rebuilding those countries. On the DMZ in Korea, it was a little bit tenuous. In Bosnia and Kosovo, but wherever American soldiers were, they brought stability. Since the Iraq War of 2003, things have changed. And we tried to do something in a way that it wasn't going to be achievable. We tried to do something big on the cheap. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And we paid a price for it. I think those lessons have been learned by this administration, and we're seeing them applied. And, we're seeing some very prudent decisions. Shot some missiles in Nigeria. We don't know what's going to happen. We've sent some people down to help train their military. We're not going to get involved in Nigeria. We're trying to encourage the Nigerian government to do some things a little bit better. We spent 6 weeks fighting the Houthi. I think we came to some kind of accommodation with them because they're not shooting anybody anymore. But I also think we learned some lessons that are now being applied in Iran. You can't do it with the minimal force. You have to be there with overwhelming force.
Yeah, you got to show them.
So these guys, the Pentagon is learning event by event. The administration is learning event by event. They're taking in the information. They're making good adjustments, and they're executing. So I think the lessons of Iraq are going to be such that going to have a hard time with those guys in the Pentagon signing on to something like that. They're not interested in it.
I hope not. Hey, we're going to jump into something else here, if you don't mind. And we'll still take some calls. But we're going to look a little bit of political here, especially in North Carolina. Wow. Well, this was quite a primary we had in the state. We'll talk about this big surprise coming out of Rockingham-Guilford County for years to come. You had Sheriff Sam Page up there beating Phil Berger for the Senate seat up there, District 26. At the end of the night, 26,000 plus votes in 2 counties, 2 votes. 2 votes. Folks, if you don't believe your vote don't count, you need to go talk to Phil Berger because he'd have liked to have found 2 of you, really 3, tell you the truth. But that's crazy. I'm just saying, I've never seen anything like that, of that high magnitude race, come down to 2 votes. My goodness. Now, they've done provisional ballots, and theoretically, Sam's up 23 votes. And I always say my money I had bet on Sam until the lawyers show up. Then all bets are off once the lawyers show up. And now the lawyers will try to go in and disprove the provisionals. But I think at the end of the day, you still get back to 2 votes. Even if you prove all the provisionals don't live where they say, or they're not this, or they're not that, we're still back to 2 votes. And that's just crazy. And it's going to be interesting because Phil Berger has been one of the main architects behind our election integrity. So now my question is, how does he go about making this work for him if he's fixed the voting like he should have? Of course, I always said all you got to do is ask the Democrats. They'll tell you. They'll tell you exactly how to fix this problem. So pretty wild there. Also in this, I had some good friends that did make it. Had my seatmate did, Jake Johnson up in Rutherford and Polk and I think McDowell. And I think he's got a little bit, I don't know. He's got about 4 counties up there. But Jake survived. Went and worked hard that day at a poll for him, so glad to do it. But Keith Kidwell down on the coast, stout conservative, didn't make it through. Also, Reese Pirtle, good man. He was in Rockingham County as a representative, kind of got caught up in the whole Berger Page thing, and he got beat. And I hate that because he's done a great job. And then Kelly Hastings down in Gastonia. Kelly told us he wasn't going to run again, and he waited about 3 or 4 weeks, maybe a month, and then he decided he would run again. And I think that went ahead and lit the candle under other people, and it ended up costing him. So I hate that. Getting in here a little bit, go back over here because we're getting down to the end here. So I always like to do it crazy as it gets. Part 1, real quick. Home insurance in California. We got some people there. A story talked about their bill was basically $6,000 a year for home insurance, has now gone to $44,000 a year home insurance in LA, and it will not cover the cost to rebuild their house that they have at $44,000 a year. And Governor Newsom, being so great, says he's going to help let the insurance companies raise their rates so we'll get more competition. How about you raise the water level? They're still severely under, about 10% is what they're carrying in their reservoirs up there, all because of a little fish that you can't even eat. And the only fish I'm really worried about are the ones that I like to eat. The rest of them are eaten by other fish. Maybe that's okay, but we'll figure out a path. But I think you better figure out how to get some water in your reservoirs. If not, is crazy. And they've knocked down dams instead of keeping them up to control the rivers. So all the water's going right through. The other one is Lakeisha Austin moved forward through the Republican primary in Durham County, which is kind of ironic. I think there's only 5 Republicans, so they must all went out and voted for her. But anyway, running for the North Carolina Senate against incumbent Sophie, and I always call her Chiclet. I don't know if that's exactly right, but that's how I call her, Senator Chiclet. She's a Democrat, so it didn't bother me one way or another, call her whatever, in November. So what's so crazy about the case? Her campaign picture shows her in a full-face burqa, I think I'm pronouncing it right, and you really can't see her face, just her eyes. That was her campaign picture. So I assume her to be maybe Muslim, or maybe she doesn't like to get out in the sun. I'm not sure. But according to her voting record, she's only voted Democratic. So, who will she caucus with if she would win? Now, the odds of her winning won't happen. But I do think this is kind of interesting how we have a Democrat Republican running against a liberal Democrat. So I guess the question in Durham is, are you kind of a conservative Democrat, or are you a crazy liberal Democrat? You'll have to figure out whichever. But will you have enough guts to mark a Republican on a ballot if you're either one of those Democrats to get this through? And I'll be interested to see how this works out going forward with the burqa and everything else. So this has gotten pretty crazy. All right, Mel, we've got down to the end, and it's a quick hour. Let's go ahead and I'll say a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, dear Lord, we pray for our servicemen and women all over the world, dear Lord. Protect them, watch over them, be with them as we go through this conflict. Let it end quickly, Lord, and I pray that something comes out of this that helps the people of Iran and takes from their oppression. I pray you watch over all of us. Give us wisdom and discerning, dear Lord, in all that we do. In Jesus Christ's name. Amen. Folks, until next week, take care.
Thank you for tuning in to Taking Care of NC. We hope today's program offered valuable insight into the topic shaping North Carolina's future. Stay informed, stay engaged, and join us next time as we continue exploring the issues that matter most to our state. Until then, take care, and thank you for being a part of the conversation.
Country is 550 AM WAME, 92.9 W225BD, Statesville.
When your celebration of life is prepared, it becomes a gift to your family later. No one should have to pay for a loss when they're experiencing one. Paying in advance protects your loved ones and gives you the peace of mind you deserve. Let us help you plan every detail with professionalism and compassion. We're Bunch Johnson Funeral Home, 705 Davie Avenue, Statesville. Call us at 704-873-7223 to schedule an appointment.
WAME and Bunch Johnson Funeral Home are proud to present our national anthem, Bunch Johnson, where every detail matters. Call them at 704-873-7223 or stop by their location at 705 Davie Avenue, Statesville for your personalized experience.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner wave
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. The U.S. and Israel have a potential new target in their war with Iran. The country now has a new supreme leader, replacing the previous one who was assassinated by Israel. New York City's police commissioner says 2 explosive devices thrown during dueling protests outside the mayor's official residence, Gracie Mansion, over the weekend, being investigated as an act inspired by ISIS. The Democrats' refusal to fund the Department of Homeland Security is starting to take a toll at some airports. There were huge airport delays in Houston and New Orleans over the weekend. The U.S. military has killed 6 suspected narco-terrorists in a strike on an alleged drug